Um, Welcome back again to the Unscripted Career. This is our podcast where we explore the inspiring journeys of people who've dared to redefine success on their own terms. As you've seen till now, in each episode, we've been diving deep into the stories of folks who have navigated career breaks, pivots, as well as significant changes. And that's why we have Sahil with us. He's a dear friend and a batchmate from my engineering college. He is currently the supply head at District under the Eternal portfolio, and his career has ranged across CEAT tires to MakeMyTrip to Flipkart, as well as Adidas, where he was the director for customer experience. Sahil was also the ET Young Leader in 2014. So, as you see, lots of different industries, all of that, and a truly unscripted career. So, welcome, Sahil. So glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that introduction. Feels good when somebody else talks about it that way. I hope we will have a very good conversation today.
Awesome. Yes, I think so. We were discussing 2005 to 9 is when we did our engineering. So, been like
That's correct.
16 years since. And after that, you went to KJ Samaya for your MBA, and all of this great experience have been ever since. But if I think back to the engineering days as well, you were amongst one of the few people who had work experience prior to engineering. I leave it up to you to explain that, right? So why don't you talk about like what were your formative years like, what was childhood like, and what prompted you to work early on?
Okay, let me start with the childhood. I think childhood shapes a lot of what you end up becoming. And in childhood, the good thing is that you don't know that how your thoughts are getting shaped. I think I keep using this phrase that Godfather once said, "A man is a product of his environment," and that's how it kind of shapes up. So it's more of, and I'll keep using this word throughout the conversation, serendipity of where you are born, who you are born to, what were your friends like, what were you doing in your early childhood, how was the relationship between your parents, how did you manage studies, what kind of financial profile did your parents have. All these things combine, you know, compound to shape up who you are.
Of course.
Now, coming to the experience of having prior experience before joining engineering, I think again I had a scare where I had to move to Punjab Engineering College, and if I vaguely remember, this was the time when they were figuring out if the quota should be 85-15 in favor of people who had done their 10+2 from Chandigarh versus 50-50. So there was a gap because of that, and this was also the era when outsourcing has just about started. So you had call centers flourishing here, there, everywhere. And it was a good way to make a lot of buck. I don't remember how I fell into it, but I was always an avid reader. I think it was via newspapers that I saw an ad, went there, cold called, converted, and then started doing it. So that was it. And I remember that it used to be the US shift. So we would start at about 12 in the midnight, and then we would do it all the way till 9. The process was that we had to ask for donations. So the process used to be named as donations, and it was for a charity. And I'm talking now about 2005. And at that point in time, I still remember it used to be, I did not even know that there was a concept of CTC and annual and all that. All we understood was how much could we make up and beyond our usual pocket money. And I used to be paid 9,500. And I had no clue what is to be done with that kind of money. I had not seen that kind of money in my pocket any which ways. And I was also very shy, the early parts. So I wouldn't go up and ask for a lot of things from my parents or my father. So that used to be a lot of money. And I just did it out of some kick. I don't have any clue of whether somebody persuaded me. I don't think so. I just did it. And I don't think so. I was doing it because it was
So
cool.
lovely that I think most of us, when even during engineering, right after that, I remember, I don't know if you recall, Infosys came and they took us to their Infosys Chandigarh campus. And they said generally 3 lakhs per annum is the salary that you get. And my mind was blown thinking 25,000 a month. What do you
Correct.
do with that type of money? Right. So it's so nice that it, just 3 years back, even 9,500 was feeling like, oh my God. But you were talking about that childhood gets shaped by various circumstances, right? So what was it like for you?
So for me, it was not very different from how most of us were at that point in time. And I'm referring to a normal middle class family where the values are that you respect your elders, that everybody has to study, and that there is no life beyond studying. I still remember my grandparents used to tell me, "पढ़ोगे लिखोगे तो बनोगे नवाब, खेलोगे कूदोगे तो होगे खराब." And that was quite enraged. And this was the time when all I would do was finish everything at school and then therefore finish everything at college and play cricket. That is it. I'm talking about before joining engineering. So school time was all about just finishing homework, coming back. I was again, as I said, very shy. Did not take part in any extracurricular activities, as it was, and nobody kind of pushed us also into doing it. By the way, I have been schooled from Saint Stephen's, and there used to be a lot of activities that would happen at that point in time in Saint Stephen's. But I wasn't one of them who was keen or who had any inclination towards any sort of extracurricular. So it was way beyond in my career when I started doing all these things. So yeah, I mean, the childhood was normal, middle class values, and everything around study. So basic idea in one line was you study hard, and then only you can make it. Otherwise, there is nothing that is going to happen.
So for the 16-year-old Sahil, the Sahil of today is like doing awesome because he's earning well. He has seen some part of the world. He has done all of these things. But for Sahil of today, what does success really mean?
I think this is the most over-asked question, and everybody seems to have an answer around this. So somebody would say success is happiness, then therefore you need to define what is happiness. Somebody would say success means peace, then therefore you would end up defining peace. There are other things where people would say it's a combination of who you live with, what kind of partner you have, what kind of money do you have, how do you see your future, etc. I think for me, success is just having a peaceful sleep at night with myself. I think that is how I would coin success for me. Because for whatever we do throughout the day, if we are not able to sleep well, then there is a problem. We can do all sorts of gym bag, we can brag about certain things. We might be very good at certain aspects of life, might be doing extremely well professionally, personally, so on and so forth. But if you are not able to sleep well with yourself, then I think success would have very little meaning.
Got it. I'm questioning myself quite a bit. I have sleeping issues.
Magnesium glycinate is what you have to do.
Great. So so all of this was Stephen's. For the folks who don't know, it's quite a coveted school in Chandigarh. I think when we used to go for some of these inter-school competitions, Stephen's kids used to do pretty well. So
I was one of them. I was one of them.
So that was good schooling, went to Punjab University for your engineering. What were those 4 years like, and what impact did they have on your life henceforth?
Again, as I said, very normal. Nothing to have super bragging rights. The first thing that any boy would do is what I would do, which is to buy a bike. And this was the era when Pulsar had come in. And the only kick in life was that in the party, you would brag with your Pulsar by putting it on first gear and then racing as fast as you can, without fearing about what may or might be the consequences. assuming you lose control, etc. But I think at that age, that's what you like. So the thrill was to drive a bike. Uh, I again, even in engineering, like just like in MBA, I had this thought that I would finally study because I had never been very good at academics. So fundamentally, I think when I look back, I feel most people had problems with their teachers or their professors. I think I had a fundamental problem with the academic structure. Like I had very basic level questions. Why are we studying uh, what was being taught even 20 years back? What is the significance of social science? Why should we study? Is calculus being used anywhere? If not, why do spend so much time on it? So for me, engineering was all about exploring everything outside academics, and I think I did that quite well. I went on to discover two friends who are still friends till now, and that was because of dramatics. So we had a drama club, and I think you have vivid memories, and most people who know us by that. And then I was very active during college in debates. I mean, anything that would be outside the academics. Also very well connected, network. I think at that point in time, we did not even know what networking was, but I was very keen on understanding what the senior batch was doing, how were they preparing for life, and how have people transcended their life after they have done their.
Got it. So, and then after engineering, did you go to Infosys like most of our batch, or did you do something different?
I did go to Infosys. It's not on my LinkedIn, but I did go there. I tried my level best, and the only thing that I remember when I tell the Infosys story is that you recall there used to be we had classes all days except I think Sundays during our trainings, and the curriculum was that for 26, 27 odd days we would study coding, and then balance 3 days is when there would be non-coding related classes, which was largely soft skills, personality development, and leadership, which is where I had a lot of fun, and I think I had a knack for it. But once again, one never knew what all these things meant, at least at that point in time. So Infosys was tough for me. I couldn't enjoy. I wouldn't understand what's happening, and I could also feel the pressure that everybody else did, and it was only me who did not. So it went on for a few months, and then I finally decided that it was time to call it quits, and I came back, and then I started doing freelancing. I started with a school. I started teaching very young students, 8, 9, soft skills, all about personality development. I picked up a job which was all about training people on IELTS, TOEFL, GRE, making curriculum for CAT. The basic idea being somehow you have to now crack MBA because that's the road further. Because I couldn't do what everybody else in my batch was doing, which is IT, etc. So that's what I did. So it took about a year and a half. It was a tough time for me. And at that point in time, this is I think 2011. So internet had not penetrated to the levels where it was. I did not, I think, even have a phone at that point in time. I kept myself busy with reading and preparing for MBA. And then finally, whatever intellect I had, I finally cracked something called as KJ Somaya. Again, I had 1 or 2 more calls, but I was prudent on the fact that I wouldn't spend too much on my MBA education because I had. So once again, you remember this was a time when we had pagalguy.com. So I had read every forum right from 2005 to 2010 on interviews. What is it that they ask in interviews? What is it that they ask in GDs? Even before the result had come. So I used to be that passionate about non-academic side of the things, and what's it that is being asked, and how are they framing interviews, etc. So yeah, that's what I did, and finally I went to.
Got it. And then 2 years of MBA. And that is where was that the time when you started feeling like, okay, academics are not evil, or did it continue there?
So once again, same feeling when I went to MBA. I had again courtesy palguy.com. I had fair bit of idea on what happens in the campuses also. And yeah, the larger point was that finally I will study. And this time the reasoning that I gave to myself was that this is the last part of your education journey. Most likely you are not going to pick up books after this, because anyways I never enjoyed studying. So the idea was to listen to what the profs would teach. But as destiny would have it, and as has been happening since the education time, nothing happened, and I somehow managed to cross most of the subjects. Here also, sales and marketing is where I had some keen interest, and I would do well in those subjects and largely survive on my speaking skills. So I would go to every level so that I don't have to do any assignments because they were too boring for me. I would make a group, or probably people would approach me with the view that we will do the hard work of preparing everything, and this guy would be the frontliner who will speak. And I would not know much about what the subjects were. I was in the in-depth knowledge was never there because I never studied. The large idea was that somehow I also, because everybody believed in my speaking skills, I also believed in it, and I said that okay, I'll speak something, and if they prepare something and there is some cross questioning, somebody will handle it, or maybe I will handle it. It's not a big deal. So this much उतना थोड़ा बहुत पता था, but उतना नहीं पता था कि बहुत in depth कुछ answer कर पाए. And my kick was that okay, look, all these people are studying. At least I don't have to study and make all those texts and all. I just have to figure out half an hour after these guys are done doing emails to each other that you have not done this, and you know how it happens with the B-schools, that your part is left, etc. Everything is combined, sent to me late at night. I will study it and I will figure out a way on how to blurt it out in a way that it doesn't look as if I'm reading from the slides, but still it looks as if this group seems to be decently prepared. So that's what I did from an academic side. Again, non-academic side, very active. I was a part of the marketing club. I made some wonderful friends who are friends still now. Did everything outside college with respect to. I used to lead sales for the entire marketing vertical. So I was the one who would get money so that we would host events, we would distribute coupons, or we would have large amounts of money in order to invite people from other colleges and make a big event out. And of course, reading and listening to a lot of news and keeping myself abreast with whatever is happening in and around the world. So again, in short, everything apart from studying, I would decently enjoy.
Got it. Okay. I hope no students are hearing this, because
Yeah. This is
both ways, right? One is that somebody could think that okay, as long as you're excelling in the thing that you are good at, you'll do pretty okay. Versus somebody else who might be like, anyways, no point studying. Sahil told us so.
Okay, so huge disclaimer. Please study. It's extremely important to be good at academics. Even if you are not good at it, please ensure that you have good marks. You should not be like me. And it was not as if I was very bad. Like I would almost be at somewhere closer to plus minus 80% from a percentage perspective during my 8th and 10th and 12th, and very, very sharp in mathematics. So I would have very high scores even in my CAT, in 8th, even in class 10 booth. I would have high scores on maths, high scores on English, and everything else would be very mediocre. And if it's subjects like Hindi and all, I would even drop to 60, 65, etc. And I would have no shame about it. I would like, okay, this isn't my cup of tea. And I knew that I had not prepared much. But again, disclaimer, please be good at academics. It's extremely important. It gives you a lot of bragging rights. You should not be like me, that you get your bragging rights way later in the life. So do good in academics.
Yeah, as a more academic kinds, I can tell that it just makes your life easier because no one is on your tail all the time to say that marks bhi nahi aa rahe and this other thing is not happening as well. You always have this thing to say, ki mama, let go. Great.
Yeah.
So, and then from KGSOM, you joined CEAT. Tell me, how was that experience of like actual rugged sales. And then during the timeline itself, the Economic Times Young Leader as well. So what made it happen? Why was it important to you?
Yeah, so two parts to this. So the first part is what happened. So once again, as luck would have it, I had decided that I would only join sales, and I kind of cracked CEAT somehow. And then my first posting was actually in Bihar. That was my first stint with sales in scorching heat in Patna, in a place where everybody would scare you that anything could happen to you if you are found loitering around late at night or crossing the borders of Patna, etc. But thankfully, it was a good stint for me. I had wonderful 5-6 months wherever when I stayed there. It was also the first experience of understanding the dealer/distribution model, figuring out how do you actually convince people. So this was actual sales, not the kind which I had done before. But I had a fair bit of tailwind kind of an advantage where I believed that I could do this. So I had that belief. So I did that, and then came back, got Jaipur as a city where I would have ASM as my profile, just like everybody else would have it in FMCG. And then ETYL was one thing where I was still, in my mind, I was still figuring out that there's nothing unique in my CV per se. Because most people by this time were also bragging their academics, which I had nothing to brag about. So I always wanted that what should be that next big move, one thing which people can talk about. And this seemed like it, and was done by Times of India, so it was a huge property. And perchance, we also had one more girl from our organization who had cracked this last year. So there was a used case of somebody cracking it from our organization also. So yeah, one thing led to another. There were a lot of rounds. They also have CAT kind of mechanism where you have to cross multiple rounds. And then finally you are left with GD, which is group discussion. And then you cross that. And then you have a PI round, which for me was with Mr. Vineet Nair, who's ex-CEO of HCL, the person responsible for turning around HCL. It was one of a kind interview. And it had a lot of interesting questions that he asked me at that point in time. I had when I left the room, I was totally sure that I would not crack this. There were a lot of to and fro, back and forths that happened during that conversation also, and all of it was getting recorded, which was rather scary. And there was a very pretty looking girl who was sitting right next to us, and she was recording everything. And more than anything, I had this fear that for anything else, I can never approach this girl because she knows what's happened and she has seen how I faltered. So, but as luck would have, I cracked it. It was a big thing. All thanks to CEAT also. They supported.
I think you were just trying to impress that girl in the room, and that's what got you. Got you to answer better than you would have, Sahil.
I think after 5 or 10 minutes, it was very clear that I was not able to concentrate on anything. I was only concentrating on his questions because it was becoming like a, how should I put it? Like,
grilling round.
Yeah, very grilling. And he wouldn't let me complete. Before I would complete, and there would be another question, one after the other, including things like, I am not convinced. And I remember that this even featured in the newspapers. At one point in time, he even said he heard my long answer and then he said, you know what, Feku ho tu, bataya tumhe kise. So even that happened, and this girl quietly is writing this. I was not sure why are some lines getting written and everything else is getting recorded. Only to later find that this is also featuring in the newspaper with your name and your photograph, where everybody is seeing that a man of stature of Mr. Vineet Nair actually says that you are. You're bluffing on most of the things, and this happened actually twice. So in the initial half, about 5-10 minutes into the Q&A, he said this, and then the interview went on for some 30-40 minutes, and after everything, beyond 40 minutes, I thought I had one part where I would have convinced him. And again, he came back with this line. And again, he started, more grilling. So it was quite an experience for me from that side. And as again, somehow cracked it, got big, and it got a lot of mileage. It was the first time that I got this level of mileage where I went back to the head office. I remember I was actually called back to the Mumbai office, and I entered the Mumbai office, and there's a huge standee with my photograph, publicizing that, what, somebody from the RPG group in CEAT has cracked this. And then I go to the second floor. I still remember our office was on the second floor, and right outside the office there's another standee. And I meet the CMO, and he said, "Oh, congratulations." I said, "For what?" He said, "Oh, I know you cracked ETYL." And I was like, "Oh, a man of this stature also remembers or knows this." So I got a lot of mileage, because I think my first fame kind of thing that happens. So yeah, it was a wonderful feeling, and since then it is on my CV. But the surprising part is that I have never ever been asked about all these things in detail, apart from one or two people who would have asked this in some interview. So usually people have this feeling that you've done something out of the blue and everybody would ask about it. Nobody asked about it. Till they are not interested in this. And I don't know for what fun. Nobody wants to know what is it. And it was a big thing, at least at that point in time. I don't know if they still have this property, but they went on till, I think, till COVID, and then it kind of stopped.
Got it. Okay. And then you then finally the .com boom, or the e-com boom in India happened, and that's when you joined MakeMyTrip, right? So how was that journey of MakeMyTrip?
Very simple 2 points. I think most people would try to look back at their career and make a story that convinces themselves and everybody else in the system that all of this was planned, but not for me. I did not even know that what e-commerce meant in all its entirety at that point in time. All I knew was that I was coming back to North, and the second part was that I was getting a huge salary hike. I did not even have enough sense to ask for ESOPs at that point in time. And then after 2-3 years, somebody told me that you didn't get ESOPs. I said no. He said, "Idiot, you have to ask for it." I said, "Whoa, is it?" So I did not even know that. But yeah, the journey went on well. I spent about half a decade with them. There was also a merger between Goivo and MakeMyTrip at that point in time. So it was the first experience to do or be a part of the company when two big organizations are actually integrating on the professional side as well as on the cultural side. So that was quite an experience. And I did, I think, around 2 roles. First was a sales role where I was managing East India. And then I finally went on to the category, which is largely a P&L role.
So by this time you have like 7-8 years of experience. Did you feel like you have now cracked like what is working in terms of what's making you successful versus what are some of those things which are just like a no-go for you?
I don't think so. At that point in time also, I was not very sure of like how do you chart or how do you plan your career ahead. At least I remember I wasn't too sure. All I knew was that it seems like I'm in the right industry because the media made you believe so. And everybody else also said that, oh, e-commerce and all that stuff was happening since like 2018, 19, 20. And here and there you would get a lot of offers also because e-commerce, I think the VC world had pumped in a lot of money in India, and therefore everybody was hiring. But I had not figured out what should be the right move. I just knew few things, which is A, I enjoy team management. B, I am decently good at cracking categories. It takes me some time, but whatever I do, fundamentally, it is in the right direction, and I can do a P&L role easy. So those were the broadly 2 or 3 things from a strengths point of view that I had. Barring that, I wasn't very future oriented, or I did not know all about technologies, etc. Like most youngsters today would know what's happening in the AI world. I wasn't that aware, and I think to a large part, ignorance is bliss. The lesser you know, it is better. The more you know, I think there is this one phrase that I coined, which is the curse of intellectuality. The more you get to know, I think more problems are going to surround you. So that balance that everybody keeps talking about, I think that is it.
Got it. Okay. So, and after that, you went into pure like ecom retail from travel, right? Was that something that you wanted to do in terms of like diversifying? Or again, they were giving good money, maybe also ESOPs this time?
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly the power of the brand, and therefore I actually between MakeMyTrip and Flipkart, I actually pivoted to an organization called as Livewood, which was a startup. I was reporting for the first time directly to a founder, and the idea to move was I wanted to handle a large part, like large categories, all categories, which wasn't feasible at that point in time with MakeMyTrip. And this I joined in 2020 in February, and if you recall, March was when COVID happened. So all the plans and all grand plans, etc., everything went for a toss. And finally, I had to move out after 1 year. Did not have much options. Flipkart seemed to be a good one, so I kind of joined it.
Got it. Okay. So, and then in Flipkart, were you on apparel or what category were you handling there?
I was handling electronics. So Flipkart is this one wonderful organization which has certain rules. So one of their rules was that no lead should ask which category we would put you in. I think they have trained people around first principle thinking. It basically means that all category managers should be fungible. So today, if you are selling, let's say, apparels, tomorrow you should be decently sure to sell electronics or mobiles or for any small category for that matter, even if that means books. The person should be able to figure out or navigate what is the lay of the land and how do you kind of make that category a success. And they also have this rule, I think, I'm not sure if it still exists. Mostly people would change categories after 2-3 years to have exposure across the. So that experience was also good because this was the time of COVID and e-commerce was anyways on the boom. So you had a tailwind. You just had to figure out few things, organize yourself. The work was intense, but I think 1.5-2 years of Flipkart are actually 4-5 years of anywhere else. Especially if you have planned the BBD end to end, which is Big Billion Day, because the planning starts way in advance. People get to know about BBD, I think, mostly in August, September that it's coming. But for the P&L leads, it starts somewhere in May or June. Then by the end of August, everything is planned to the T. So that entire experience was also good.
Got it. Okay. And but was it just the burnout of doing all of that, or the pull of something else that led you to Adidas at that time?
As I said, serendipity. So I wasn't looking out. There was one big consulting firm who approached me, and then the round started happening. I remember even at that point in time, I did not even know that Adidas has two brands. So Adidas has one which is 3 stripes, and then there are also some brand which is Originals. It's the ETYL logo that people are very fond of. I did not even know that. I knew that it is a big organization, but I was decently enjoying. I was having my kick at Flipkart. So Flipkart is one world where you either leave in 2-3 months, or then you go on and make a big one if you have liked it. So I wasn't sure. But then one of my friends said that, what are you even thinking about? So a couple of things that prompted me to move from Flipkart to Adidas. One was, of course, the elevation. So entering into the leadership role for the first time. Second was India plus role. So I was handling Southeast Asia and Middle East, North Africa also in this one. And third was the experience of finally working with an MNC from a cultural standpoint to understand what are the intricacies of various cultures, etc. One may feel or one may have this feeling that one is good at it, but it's only when you get into the thick of things that you realize how much difference a simple line or a tonality or the way you speak or the thoughts that you convey can actually have. Because you actually are born and brought up in one country where everybody mostly is from the same origin, or is thinking all the same way, give or take the differences between north, south, east, west. Mostly things are going to be common, or you will be able to internalize it better. But it doesn't happen if you are, let's say, dealing with somebody from Turkey, or let's say somebody from Middle East. So all those things kind of prompted me. Of course, the money factor was there, and I had asked for a huge one, but because I was very sure that I am not interested any which ways. So it was more of a free flowing thing, and it happened. So I moved.
Got it. Okay. And so when you move into that leadership role and you start handling a much larger portfolio, was there like a shift in identity that came along with it? Was there anything unexpected that happened on a personal front around that?
See, from an identity perspective, the more you get into such a huge organization, the shift happens. I would be lying if I would say that nothing happened. The shift did happen. You did think a little big of yourself. But once again, I would say you should figure out distractions in life. So I label it as distractions. Some distraction which brings you back to the ground. Now it can be a distraction where you have a friend, maybe your spouse, maybe a mentor. So for me, it was calisthenics. So I went into fitness big time. I was anyways into fitness all along. And then I somehow thought or somehow had this idea that there should be something around strength building. And I read, went deep into it, and figured out that the normal resistance training that we do at gyms isn't enough, and also isn't sustainable from a long period of standpoint. So that's where I joined calisthenics, and it would decently keep me grounded, because anybody or people who are into calisthenics or as they call it, a Cali athlete, they would usually know that the success here comes way later. And the only other sport, I think, where this happens, where you have multiple injuries and you have to start from ground zero again and again, would probably be gymnastics, which is equally tough. I think the dropout rate on both the places would be upwards of 50-60%, which means people don't return. It's either because of fear of injury or the fact that you've worked so hard for something, and then now you have a problem because of which you can no longer continue. So from that point, it is a hard sport to be in, and that's what kept me grounded even at that point in time. Otherwise, this was also the era where I started going very deep into philosophy, a little bit around psychology, understanding what people are saying about peace, happiness, money, the relationship with money. And at that point in time, it was also that you had enough. So the point was to define what is enough, and where is it going.
So what is enough? Where is it going?
I think everybody will have to define enough for themselves. I think one of the ways by which you can do it is do it mathematically. For now, you have AI as a tool, and it will simply tell you what kind of money you have and what kind of money you will need to get in life. But as I put it, no, the steroid injection that you get at the end of the month, now you have to decide if you want to put your entire life on antibiotics, because it will have side effects. So I was decently happy with whatever I was getting, and I knew that it's going in the right direction, give or take. And also, once you get slightly deeper into philosophy, you realize, or you get into that mode where you start thinking, what is the purpose of life? Who am I? Which I think the youngsters today would do it after on Friday nights, after getting a little drunk and being slightly pissed off from their life managers. They would start questioning their identity. So for me, it came from books, and the part which kept me grounded was calisthenics, which I still continue to enjoy. I think it is one thing where I can say that my heart lies. I love the sport. I want to go even deeper from where I am. And once again, it's the distraction. You should figure out multiple distractions so that it keeps you grounded. Otherwise, your brain starts to function and you only think in one direction. I think for most of the people, this is what is happening. You try to define your identity from your business card, and that's where
Yeah.
things start to fall apart. Because anything that goes up, largely going to come down, give or take. You may fall back to your baseline, but it's not as if it's going to go up and it's going to keep going up. And anything that I say is usually true for 32%. 20% people, of course, will start and then their graph just doesn't plateau. But for most of us, if it's going up, it's going to come down. So one should be aware of this truth about life. And therefore, if you are diversified, as they say in financial portfolios also, if you are diversified, you will be safe. Similarly, here, you should be diversified. It's not, if you want to define success from your corporate career, it's all good, but then have one or two more distractions which keep you grounded.
Yeah, and we've spoken about it around like being touched by life, and in terms of like having breaks and having all of these don't always move in like the direction of, okay, because I wanted to, things change the way they did, right? So were there any points in time where a career break or just some event in life happened because of like not necessarily by your own doing, and then you had to think through like, okay, how do we move forward from there?
See, I think the movement from Adidas was one such phase where there was a thing around restructuring which was happening. Therefore, I had to figure out the next move, and there was a decent level of break. But then I capitalized on that time period also. I joined coaching for the first time, which is basically an ICF course. So it was long due, and I wanted to do it academically, professionally, and this was something where I would do it properly, not like the other academics where I have been shortchanging myself or figuring out other ways to take a shortcut, etc. So I did that. I'm quite happy with the fact that I spent time with a coach, spent time in that group, figured out how do you do normal conversations, which also acts as a tailwind when you want to have a tough conversation or you want to navigate conflict-related environments. With respect to the career break, I have actually worked in environments or figured out a way in the corporate world where I'm not per se felt what they commonly coin as burnout. I know this is quite common nowadays and it happens also. But again, going back to the formula of distractions, if you have enough of them, you will figure out a way to navigate. And otherwise, you should have a mentor. You should have a professional coach who figures out how you should define or navigate the journey. It becomes tough. As I said, it's if you are on antibiotics and we take it away, then it is a problem, and you start to question your identity. And it happened with me also.
Yeah.
But I had that confidence that I will come back. The question was when.
Yeah.
And will I be shortchanged or will I be arm twisted for the fact that I don't have something as of now? So that fear still remains or was there at that point in time also. And I think that fear is there across the board, especially if you enter the leadership. So I remember a time when I used to be at a very early stage in my career, manager types, and I would feel that these people, especially the directors and all, they don't have any work. They just come, they just allocate work, review us, and then they go away. It's so easy for them. And the day I reach at that stature, everything is going to be honky dory. But it's only when you reach there you realize what are the various complexities you have to handle. And a large part of that complexity is managing people. And that can be people not only in your team, it can be cross-function, so on and so forth. So I think that is something that keeps me engaged. Coaching acts as a tailwind. Now that I've done that course, soon will be certified also. So yeah.
But like, I know you were talking about the salary as the steroid, but during that break, how did you manage the finances? Was there always this thing on financial independence where you knew that, I think in our generation, pretty much everyone should be aware and very, very real about this thing that the jobs are not going to be there forever. Um, it could be a reorg, it could be a tech change, it could be like various other things. But it is possible that we have to get into that place of 6 to 8 months of a break, not necessarily like our parents were, government jobs and they retired at 60, right? Most of us don't even want to stretch on till 60, right? So, did you have that in the back of your mind? Was that something that you were mentally and financially prepared for? And how did you, think about it? What was your mental model there?
This is the thing about uncertainty. If things are uncertain, you don't know when things will fall in your on your side of the thing. So because you don't know, you keep hoping every single day when you get up in the morning, you hope that everything will fall in place one way or the other. For me, I have always believed in input. I have never given up as a person and said that, okay, that is it. I have had the hard side of the things. And again, if you have tailwinds like or distractions like reading, or you're into anything like calisthenics or working out, or into a sport, you know the ups and downs will come. From a financial aspect, I think one should have certain level of uh, finances kept for such emergencies, and so did I. One could also do a lot of consulting work, which is easily available provided you have the skill set. I still kind of, I also had that. And then figure out distractions. As I always say, this is the time when you will need more of them till you finally get back your mojo, you get back to where you want to be. And slowly and steadily, things will fall in place, provided the inputs are in the correct place. Otherwise, these things can get extended beyond one's comprehension. As you rightly mentioned, it's very hard nowadays. The competition is too high. The supply will continue to outweigh demand even for the further years, with or without AI. I think AI is just another excuse. It's not as if before AI we had a lot of jobs and everybody was very happy switching jobs or figuring out new ones or pivoting careers. It was always tough. It will again be tough even for the coming years, especially with the muted outlook for the next 12 to 18 months around macro environment factors and whatever is happening globally also. Especially the growth in retail, I think, will still be mid to late single digits. The earnings of corporates will also, in the last 12 odd quarters, has not been that high. Right? It will stay muted for another 3-4 quarters. So it's not going to be that easy. So you should figure out what you will do if such an instance happens. And let's assume that if such an instance does happen, unfortunately, with anybody, again, have your mentors, have your coaches around you. There is no need to lift or do the heavy lifting all by yourself. Usually, I've seen people getting into that mode of I will handle everything myself. Probably there is no need. You are just maybe you are a little angry, maybe you are a little frustrated, and rightly so. But at that point in time, to figure out who will be the right partner, who will be the right person who can help you navigate that scenario is going to be important. And a lot of it is again going to come back to serendipity. A lot of it is going to come back to your power of relationships, what kind of network you have. And if things have happened in a manner where you have had relationships which are non-transactional, I don't think so. It will be that tough for the person to get back into the game.
Yeah, yeah. So Sahil, you've worked for like so many years in the corporate now, right? And we always think about like what are the various archetypes of people who somehow just always feels like this is easy for them, right? So have you ever thought about that? Like, okay, this type of a person generally ends up doing better than the average. And these values or like habits or whatever you may generally help in making yourself a little more indispensable. None of us are indispensable, but a little more, you know, higher dependency?
It's an interesting question given the fact that all these years we have been told a couple of normal points, which is A, you should be very good at communication. B, you should be academically strong. C, you should be good with people in and around you, and couple of more such reasons. The way I see this is, it's going to be hard for anybody to. So, for example, if you just take the three factors that I just defined, you can easily figure out a Venn diagram where there will be people who will not have any of these, and still they'll be largely successful, maybe even more than you. So therefore, the question is, what are the right 3, 4, 5 ingredients which you actually need, which makes for a successful career? Most people would also think of it in terms of functional expertise or functional competence. The way I would define is, what is your hygiene and what is it up and over. So think of it like making a cake. So the cake is your hygiene. It's your product. Now it can be a functional competence. It can be something that only you know. Or it can be something that you are better at with respect to others. So the cake should be good. It's the cherry which is going to make people pick that cake. If you even remember, when you go to a normal bakery shop, you get, they have always decorated it. Sometimes when you take the cake back and you eat it, you realize that it is actually the cherry that prompted you to pick the person up, or to pick that particular cake in this case. And maybe the cake was not that delicious. So the hygiene has to be there. And all these years, everybody has just spoken about the hygiene. Therefore, let me take some time and share what do I think is the cherry. So the cherry is A, you should be curious. Now, curiosity can be defined on multiple fronts. The first of which is, you should have a learning attitude. Now, how you will have it, like whether it is books, whether it is YouTube, there are other channels. If everybody figures out their own lay of life, but the one should be decently curious. Otherwise, things are changing so fast, the game will be gone before you even realize it. So that's the first point. Second point I would say is patience. It's a very normal thing to say, but do you actually have patience to wait it out? If you wait it out, most likely you are going to be successful. Most likely. So as I think it was Charlie Munger who said that you don't have to be extraordinarily intelligent. You just have to be average and slightly wiser with respect to other people for a very long period of time. So the law of averages will tend to work out in your favor. So that's that I think would be second. And finally, the third that I would put at is your ability to know what to say, how to say, and how much to say. The responses have to be measured. Most people are still in that domain of, like, have you entered a normal corporate meeting? The moment it starts, everybody jumps in. This is exactly what they told you not to do in a group discussion. So right from your MBA days till now, this is exactly what you do. The moment it starts, you want to jump in, because higher the quantum of words coming out of your mouth equals the subject knowledge. But for good leaders, especially in that room, they will sense that room and they will figure out who's the guy who's verbose and where are the ones where quality inputs are coming from. And you can very, very easily and starkly differentiate between two people. So the idea here is that the stimulus has just come. Now, if the stimulus has just come, you can think of responding to it, and you can also think not to respond. It is not necessary to engage in any argument or every argument that comes your way. So that would be the third thing. So just to summarize, A, you should be highly curious. B, you should be patient, because law of averages will work then out in your favor. And third is, know how to respond. Basically, your responses should be measured, and it is not necessary to respond. So sometimes if something has been asked and you are not responding, it is also an answer, which in normal parlance or in philosophical way, you can say that it is silence. That's why somebody would have said silence speaks louder than words. So your body language will convey. Finally, and the most important point, again, for the third time during the conversation, leave room for serendipity. it will happen. But if you don't believe in the process, then it is very tough. For most of us, it's that. But since we want to sound intellectual or knowledgeable, we have to say something. So we will say something fancy so that everybody gets impressed, and they walk down the stairs and say, "Oh, look, that guy said this thing." But deep down, it is mostly going to be a lot about serendipity. Again, the base has to be good. The hygiene has to be there, because hygiene is what will separate men from the boys. But what are the men who are going to progress? It will largely be defined by these 3-4 things. You will have different vocabulary words for all these things. And if I were to choose just one, I would still choose serendipity. So leave room for it.
Got it. And then finally, like your current role, the supply side head for district under the eternal portfolio, been a couple of months now. How's it going?
Yeah, it's been not a couple of months, but just about a month and a half. Still very early. So it's time will tell. I'm keeping my fingers crossed to have a very long stint here. The people are good. The energy is vibrant. The culture is very different. Extremely stark from where I come. Also, it keeps challenging me on a day-to-day basis from my value standpoint. So everybody wants to do 100 things, whereas I would probably do 2 things, but do it very, very well. So what is that balance? You also tend to meet a lot of people at this level. So you have to understand the nuances of each and every individual. What are their needs? What are their trigger points? How should you have a conversation? How do you drive your way? So basically, you have to be slightly fixated on your destination, but more flexible on your tactics. And as you go up, this will be the road across the roads that you will do. So let's see. There is a huge tailwind. We know the founder and the CEO. We know the fact that how many unicorns he has been able to churn out. So hopefully we will do well as a team. And I have a fair bit of confidence on the larger team also and the ecosystem also. And if the ecosystem is doing well, then largely all the people in the ecosystem should do well. And this is why I say that you should actually not play the zero-sum game when it comes to people, relationships, networks, or even in your corporate job. Because if you are doing well and the ecosystem is not doing well, then there is going to be a problem. But if the ecosystem is doing really well and you are somewhere in the middle, you would still survive and have a decent life. So don't invite trouble for yourself by playing the zero sum. And as one philosopher once said, that don't take life too seriously. Nobody came out with victorious. So that still holds true. And as I grow and as I learn more, I try to at least practice that in my day-to-day. Am I able to do that on all days? The answer is no. It is a candid. I don't think so. I'm anywhere closer to perfection. But at least I'm able to internalize all these things, which is where I'm hoping I'll do well for myself.
Perfect. Awesome. On that note, I love this thing of leaving things to serendipity, and that, good things will come as long as you keep the patience, you keep the curiosity, and you keep the courage, and try to say the right things at the right time. So thank you so much, Sahil. This has been good. And I remember you saying, I think 30-40 minutes has been an hour plus.
Yeah, has it been? Yeah. It has been. I'm sure it has been more than the 30-40 minutes. I'm glad that we had this opportunity to share this conversation, and I'm hoping a lot of people do watch this and do learn something out of it, and of course they share their comments on how the conversation was. Yeah. So look forward to having many more conversations like this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sahil.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Bye.